Ukrainian officials have confirmed that a massive Russian attack on Kyiv and surrounding districts over the weekend killed 4 people and injured at least 87 others. Moscow carrying out a deadly large-scale wave of strikes against Ukraine, firing hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles. In response this Monday, 1 man was killed and another injured, while energy infrastructure was damaged in a missile and drone attack on the region in Russia bordering Ukraine. Let's cross now to Gulliver Cragg, who joins us now from Kyiv. Gulliver, what have been the reactions in Ukraine to those strikes over the weekend?
Well, as always, there's a reaction of great solidarity in the local areas that are hit. Around me, in one of the areas that was worst hit in Kyiv, you can still see volunteers helping out, bringing wood chip to replace broken windows, people carrying out repair works, shops and cafes already open even if the repairs aren't finished. You can see behind me workers on the office buildings belonging to the Ministry of the Interior and the Emergency Situations Ministry, which is right behind the Chernobyl building. They're working on clearing up and stabilising those buildings there. So there's always a hive of activity. I think that there is, to some degree, a reaction after the initial traumatism of an extremely scary night. Most people in the Ukrainian capital say it was the worst of the year so far. A feeling that having employed such a large amount of missiles and drones, the results for Russia aren't that great. There aren't a great deal of casualties. The damage doesn't seem to be, considering the scale of the attack, all that severe. I mean, there is a shopping mall that was completely destroyed about 2 kilometres from here. We shouldn't understate the damage, but there was clearly an attempt also to strike the very centre of Kyiv, decision-making centres, as the Russians call it, the parliament, the government buildings, maybe even Zelensky's office, and that failed. There were bits of debris from drones that were shot down over central Kyiv that caused light damage, actually to an apartment building where Volodymyr Zelensky owns an apartment, to the central post office, to the foreign ministry also, but very light damage there. And so in that sense, there was a successful night for the Ukrainian air defense, the most important targets that the Russians were clearly aiming for from getting hit.
And in the meantime, Belarus's exiled opposition leader has arrived in Kyiv on her first official visit. What more can you tell us?
Well, this is the first visit that Svetlana Tikhanovskaya has made to Kyiv. It's interesting for several reasons. It comes in the context of the United States wanting to ease sanctions on Belarus and pushing for European countries to also allow for the transit of Belarusian potash through their countries. Svetlana Tikhanovskaya is absolutely against that, wants a strict sanctions regime to be in place. So perhaps they want to coordinate with their Ukrainian counterparts what position to take to try to persuade the Europeans not to give in to that US pressure on sanctions. It also comes a little while after Maria Kolesnikova, another Belarusian opposition leader, was released from jail in Belarus. She'd been in prison since 2020. She initially came to Ukraine and made a speech here in Russian that wasn't all that well received by the Ukrainian public. So perhaps it's also a signal that the Ukrainians have decided that Svetlana Tikhanovskaya is the person they regard as the legitimate leader of Belarus, the person that they want to talk to, even though, of course, she has no chance of returning to Belarus or getting into power anytime soon. And it's a signal, of course, not just to Maria Kolesnikova, but to Alexander Lukashenko, whom Volodymyr Zelensky has always refused to talk to and basically equated Belarus under Lukashenko to being a vassal state of Russia. But Alexander Lukashenko recently said that he would really like to talk to the Ukrainians and he was open to discussions in any format. Well, I think inviting Svetlana Tikhanovskaya here is Ukraine's answer to that.